Today I'm going to give you 3 negotiation tips that can save you a ton of money in a real estate transaction. Hi, I'm Bob.Woolverton. I'm with Pure Real Estate in Bellevue, Washington. Here on YouTube, I'm known as your Northwest Realty Advisor. I'm also a master level certified negotiator when it comes to real estate negotiations. So, when we come back after this 8-second break, I'll share 3 negotiation tips with you that can save you a ton of money. So stick around. Tip number 1, no ex parte communication. Ex parte communication is when you talk to anybody else about your real estate transaction without your real estate agent being present. All communication regarding any interest in the purchase of your home should go through your agent. That helps keep emotion out of the transaction and keeps all communication on a very professional, business-like level. You don't want to be talking to a potential buyer and say something like, well, we were listed at $500,000, but last night my wife and I decided, we'd take the first offer that comes in at $480,000 or higher. At that point, you have just given up all your negotiation power. Information is the key to real estate negotiations. The more information the buyer can glean from you, the more pressure you will face on your price. The more knowledgeable side will always overpower the less informed side of the bargaining table. Therefore, the more insight the buyer has into your motivation to sell, the more powerful he is at the negotiating table. So we want to keep that to an absolute minimum. Now sometimes a buyer will ask a question that appears to be very innocent. And from their perspective, it may have begun that way. However, if you answer the question, you may be giving away too much information. For example, frequently buyers will ask, why is the seller moving? Their original intent is probably to discover if there's some sort of change coming up in the neighborhood or if there's some major defect in the home or something along that line. Generally, their intent starts off as a very innocent question. But the reality of it is, you may have a valid reason for selling, like perhaps you got a new job out of town. And because of that new job, you may need to move soon, so that shortens your timeline to sell. But if the buyer knows you have a short timeline to sell, that will put you at a disadvantage at the negotiating table. The bottom line is, it's not anybody's business why you're moving. But we don't want to respond with a rude answer to an innocent question. So normally what I'll say is merely that the seller's circumstances have changed. But anytime I get asked a question, I follow a question with my own question. So when the buyer asks, why is the seller moving? I merely respond that the seller's circumstances have changed. And then I follow up with my own question, which is usually something like, how long have you been looking? Then based on their answer, I will engage in some conversational mirroring, which encourages them to tell me more about their situation. I remember I did this one time with a potential buyer and found out he had been making several offers, but he got outbid every time. So he was beginning to feel desperate. I also found out that he was approved for way more money than he was offering and that he was also in a hurry to buy a home because his wife was pregnant and they wanted to be in the new home before the baby arrived. Now who has the most information? Now who is in a position of advantage at the negotiation table? I can tell you this buyer ended up buying my seller's home for way over the asking price, and my seller was super happy. By me merely asking the buyer how long he'd been looking, he volunteered all kinds of information that gave me the advantage at the negotiating table. I want to prevent you from doing the same thing. And the best way to do that is to have all communication go through your agent, i.e. go through me. Another tactic that buyers will use will be a lowball offer, expecting that the seller will just split the difference somewhere in the middle. Tip number 2, I never split the difference. Matter of fact, as soon as I get a lowball offer, the first thing I do is I call the buyer's agent and put them on the defense. I do that by making a statement similar to, I hope you haven't set your buyers up for disappointment, or I hope that you haven't set them up to expect that we'll merely split the difference between our listing price and your lowball offer. I tell them I am not going to recommend that to my sellers, that they do anything like that. And then I go on to tell the agent I have sufficient comps to adequately support our listing price is indeed the market value of the home. But now in the spirit of cooperation, I also suggest that if they have comps that will show that I'm in error, I'm willing to look at those comps. But absent any substantive criteria showing me that the pricing of my listing is incorrect, do not expect I'm going to recommend to my sellers they lower the price merely because you submitted a lowball offer. In essence, what I've done right there is I've already started the negotiation process. And then to finish off for today's video, my last piece of advice, tip number 3, is do not let your ego get the best of you. During negotiations, there may be a time when you think about all the labor and time you've invested in getting your home sold, hours and hours spent cleaning, staging, dealing with showings, and the ongoing work of keeping your home in showroom condition while you're still living there. Then you may begin to wonder if it was all worth it when a potential buyer is critical of your home, they're demanding, or they're just plain rude. Just remember, lowering yourself to their level can break a deal. So have all communication go through your agent and let your agent deal with the criticism, the demands, and the rudeness. Your agent is skilled at dealing with people like that and still being able to keep a good deal together because your agent can keep emotions out of the equation. Well, that music means we're out of time for today. So our 3 negotiating tips today were, number 1, no ex parte communication. Number 2, never split the difference. And number 3, don't let your ego get in the way of a good deal. I hope you found value in today's video. If you did, click that subscribe button and click that reminder bell. That reminder bell will notify you when I post new videos. If you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. That tells Google's algorithm there is something of value in this video. And finally, please share this link with someone you know who can benefit from the information on this YouTube channel. You can find my email address and my telephone number in the description below and at the end of this video. Call me or email me. I'd love to hear from you. And yes, I would love to represent you in your next real estate transaction. I'm Bob.Woolverton. I'm with Pure Real Estate in Bellevue, Washington. Here on YouTube, I'm known as your Northwest Realty Advisor. Every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., I post new videos about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, as well as some home tours and listing videos. I'll see you next week.